All right, we're here with another Master Cast, and of course that is when we have two high-level tournament players squaring off against each other in a 1v1. Today we have Tlaxtlan Soothsayer versus the Gobbo King. Now these are two of the former ever-chosen champions, so it should be a fun little match here today. Tlaxtlan Soothsayer is playing the Greenskins, and we have Gobbo King on Bretonnia. So we're going to go through the Greenskins real quick before we jump on over to Bretonnia. I'm actually going to pause this so we don't miss any of the action, even though the armies are very far apart. But you can see with Tlaxtlan Soothsayer, he's gone very narrow. He didn't do a very wide army like we typically see with the majority of Greenskins armies. He really kind of narrowed it down. Now he did go with 3 nice big blocks of Black Orcs. As always, Black Orcs are a really great unit here. 110 armor, 50 AP. These guys are the heavy hitting armored badasses, and from a lore standpoint, the oldest, biggest, and best orcs of the, well, not tribe, but I guess you could say clan. Now, in addition to that, we also have some backline units here in the Doomdiver Catapult, which is an interesting choice here. You don't see this too often, but it does do quite a bit of damage. In addition to that, it is kind of a wild card pick. Now, also, we can see that we have the Hammer of Gork. Now, this does leadership damage, right? It has discouraging on its missiles, and that's a really great option here because it's going to do a lot of damage to the low morale army in which the Bretonnian army is. Now, again, I do apologize. My voice is sapped completely from the Southern Californian allergy season, so I apologize for if I sound like a jazz DJ. Moving on from there, we have in the front line, you can see the 8 peak loonies. Now this, of course, they have their fun little ability here, the loons of 8 peaks, in which case they let out fanatics with their wrecking balls that just do tons of damage if they get up close and personal. They do have stock as well and poison attacks, so they'll be able to kind of sneak up and kind of screen out any kind of cav charges, wrap around any kind of archery. They have a lot of little cool special abilities, as do all night goblins, which is kind of fun. Now, in addition to that, we have quite a few units of Goblin Spears here in the front, here in the back to kind of support things, here on the right flank. Now, we also have, of course, the mighty Ragnarok Queen. Now, really pay attention here to the Ragnarok Queen's ability. Oop, there we go. Material Instinct, which gets to summon little spider hatchlings. Now, of course, the standard Ragnarok spider cannot do this. That's only a Regiment Renown ability here. So pay special attention to how this gets used by Tlaxtlan Soothsayer. He has really good use of this throughout the entire fight. Then we also have a unit of Forest Goblin Spider Riders. They just do some nice little poison damage, and they're great little harassment units. Now, as far as Legendary Lords go, we can see that we've got Ozog the Slaughterer. Now, Ozog, of course, has just the Mighty Spirit Leech. This is going to be really good because you can use it against high-value targets that fill the Bretonnian roster. In addition to that, you get his Get On With It ability, which is a nice leadership buff, and he, of course, has his Wah. Now, that's pretty much it for the Greenskins. He does have a unit of Goblin Wolf Riders way out there, but for the most part, that is the entirety of Tlaxtlan Soothsayer's army. A very narrow one, a very interesting one because there's not a lot of anti-large in this army. There's not a lot of big guns. There's not a lot of savage boar or boar boys of any kind of variation or shape or size. So it's a very kind of interesting build to take against Bretonnia. Now, Gobbo King, on the other hand, has something that's very typically Gobbo King, right? He takes a lot of not really cookie cutter builds, but he takes a lot of off meta stuff or a lot of things to kind of throw you off your game. You can see here he's got mounted yeoman archers. These make up 2 of the total 4 that he has, 2 more across the way over there. In addition to that, he has a lot of Knights of the Realm, all of which in their lance formation. This gives them a nice increase to their acceleration, their charge bonus, and their charge speed at the reduction to their deceleration, so they can't pivot and turn as easily. This is reminiscent of their old school ability in even as far back as 4th edition tabletop, when they actually lined up in a lance formation like this. The older versions of tabletop, they were in a long rectangle. Now, another little off-meta pick here, but a focused pick nonetheless, is the unit of Royal Hippogriff Knights. Now, what Gobbo King is going to use these guys for is to crack open Black Orcs. These guys have 135 weapon strength. They cause terror. They are immune to psychology. They've got a lot of really great perks going for them. In addition to that, they're also, boom, physically resistant. They're immune to physical damage about 20%. So this does help mitigate some of the damage that can come their way. Now, the front line of his army is, for the most part, just men-at-arms. Across the whole way here, you can see he's got the Grail Relic as well to help out with some leadership, some units of men-at-arms with polearms, some spearmen. But for the most part, a very narrow, focused army, focusing mainly on the questing knights, the Knights of the Realm, a lot of cav and shock units to try and get in that back line, use these mounted yeomen for harassment purposes, and overall just kind of get up in the cookie jar. So let's see how things get going here. We'll go ahead and get get playing and we'll get this thing moving. I've also unlocked the aid of the cool little marker things here so we can point things out other than using the cursor. Now, as you can see here, Gobbo's pushing on these flanks over here and trying to get a nice little wrap up around to do some damage to these artillery pieces, harass things, kind of pull apart the micro or at least the management of Tlaxtlan Soothsayer's army. The big thing here is trying to use these mounted yeomen to get up any kind of initial shots into some goblins, help pick off some of these goblin wolf chariots, just do some initial prodding damage. Mounted yeomen don't have a ton of damage they can just outright give something, but they're there for just kind of eat up health and do a lot of consistent pressure. The Doom Diver Catapult already kind of unleashing its payload against the mounted yeoman. You can see it already scored 3 kills there. And the slow prodding move of the Royal Hippogriff Knights as they sweep around to the right, probably to attack this here, either the Arachnarch Spider or the Hammer of Gork. Now you can see a nice little kind of alpha play here by Tlaxtlan Soothsayer. He's rushing in Azag here to hopefully drop a Spirit Leech on the Fey Enchantress, the Grail Relic, or maybe even the Questing Knights. That's, like I said, Spirit Leech is a really great ability here that you have for some really great high value targets, and you can just kind of get some damage on them. But you see Spirit Leech dropped onto these Questing Knights, countered with Earthblood to try and help mitigate the damage coming out from that. Getting a nice little early game play there. Look at that, kind of knocking off a good 10-15% health. Didn't really cost him anything. It was really early, a really early game play, so it allows him to recover those Winds of Magic quite quickly. Now, Azag getting focused here by the mounted yeoman. One thing I do want to point out real quick with Azag here, Azag, he does have 70 armor and 24 melee defense, so he's not the most stalwart of legendary lords. He is a bit of a hybrid lord. Well, he is a hybrid lord. So he does have 480 weapon strength, which is in line with what we typically see with 4 hybrid lords. So pay close attention to those defensive stats as this game kind of unfolds here. Azag is typically used very defensively, and he's used kind of to harry the lines, act as a terror battery above an army, but very rarely is he used in outright engagements. Uh-oh. Royal Hippogriff Knights have their first target here as they swoop down right in on these Black Orcs. And this is a really good charge by Gobbo King here, right? He's choosing to go right for the rear charge onto a unit of Black Orcs with a heavy AP terror-causing unit. He's looking to get a real strong, heavy pick in here, use that charge bonus, use that heavy mass to do a ton of damage to these here Black Orcs. These here Black Orcs. This is the second time I've done that. The fighting is underway here, getting those Forest Goblin Riders to swarm over those orcs, over these Royal Hippogriff Knights. The Doom Diver Catapult is already firing down range. Casted Spirit Leech yet again onto the Hippogriff Knights, well, for the first time. Fey Enchantress here to kind of support things. Got a real good charge in right into these unbraced goblins, looking to pop them quite quickly. And boom! Wah is going off across the way here. Now, one quick thing that you want to know about Wah is, with Tlaxtlan Soothsayer, he didn't choose to use this when things are in combat. He's using this while things are charging into combat. Take a look at the bonuses of Wah. Speed, charge bonus, and melee attack. If you're using this when you're in combat, you're negating 2 of the 3 bonuses that you get from the Wah ability. You want to use this as you're charging into combat. And Gobbo King is no stranger to the Greenskins. He's got a nice little high-level play here. He's taking that Wah, he's using it, and he's running away from the combat. Sure, they have increased speed, but he's not there to just kind of get punished with that whole Wah. He's pulling everything back, making it so that Tlaxtlan Soothsayer has to essentially waste that first Wah with nothing in combat here. Real great move by Gobbo King here to really mitigate as much of that Wah as possible. You maybe have 2, if possible 3 Wahs in a given match. So knocking out one of them is a real great chance of increasing your survivability across an entire Bretonnian front line that is not meant to stay in prolonged prolonged combat with some of those Greenskins. I can see these men-at-arms kind of trying to get into some combat with the Spear Infantry, but getting rolled over by those Wolf Chariots here. Got some shots coming in from the Mounted Yeomen into the Black Orcs. Not going to do a ton of damage because they're not AP, but still, like we always say, consistent damage over time is really what wins out more so than burst damage. Although burst damage is pretty damn awesome. Now, you can see what I was talking about here. The Spider Hatchlings have been summoned up, even though this is kind of late in this little engagement, around the Ragnarok Queen. Now, Tlaxtlan Soothsayer is kind of using them to help prevent the Ragnarok Queen from getting completely wrapped up, also to help him do damage to the smaller units like the men-at-arms here around the Ragnarok Queen that are trying to bring her down. Now, the big thing with those little hatchlings is it also opens up a path for the Ragnarok Queen to get out of an engagement in which she does get wrapped around. Now, if we take a look at this stat profile, we can see her leadership is at 54 right now. Her base is 65. She has a very low leadership, and that's one of the biggest cruxes with the Ragnarok Queen, is that you have to worry about her leadership. She can't just be running into combat solo. She needs to be supported, or she will flee quite quickly. Moving over here to the left flank, you can see those Knights of the Realm just kind of pushing in. Again, right, unbraced goblins, mulching right through them. Quick little charge in and out. Spirit Leech popped onto them. Lance Formation still kind of holding true there. Now, take a look at this. Look how Tlaxtlan Soothsayer is just no fear, charging Azag right into Knights of the Realm. Supporting them, of course, with some Forest Goblin Riders, in with some Spears as well. But, I mean, like I said, this guy doesn't have the best melee defense, let alone armor. And he is fearlessly charging Azag into an anti-large conflict with some Knights of the Realm. But is doing this so he can completely knock them out of the fight here. Fey Enchantress getting onto this Doomdiver Catapult. It is a little hard for a single entity unit to do damage to a artillery piece like this, so you can see that it is not turning out as great. But the initial charge here, unfortunately we missed this on to the Hammer of Gork, has helped shut them down quite a bit. The right flank looking pretty secure. Gobbo King misses a pretty crucial little bomb there that would have done a little bit of damage to this congealed group of Black Orcs. Congealed. This group of Black Orcs here. But nonetheless, the Black Orcs are in to help out the Ragnarok Spider, being supported on both the left and the rear flank here. But you got a nice charge in from those Royal Hippogriff Knights. Earthblood kicking off across this whole entire pocket here, keeping these guys nice and in good health while they deal with the conjoined threat of the Ragnarok Spider and those Black Orcs. Black Orcs again just getting picked apart by Mounted Yeomen. Not going to do a ton of damage, but over time will suffice. Those Black Orcs having their new target with the Fey Enchantress you can see here. More healing going out. Shield of Thorns, though, kicking in as well. Now this gives, of course, that physical resistance and that weapon damage increase, trying to just chunk down portions of the Ragnarok Queen's health. You know, you do have those men-at-arms in here, and those guys are going to be the big target for that Ragnarok Queen, right? Getting that AP damage there, getting that anti-large in there. Another rear charge in from those Royal Hippogriff Knights. Royal Hippogriff Knights have been taking a lot of damage, though, from Azag's Spirit Leech, has been going off quite a bit. Another Earthblood. This is kind of one of those all-in fights right here. Got a lot of damage being poured in. You can see the left portion of the Greenskin army is pushing to go meet up with that big kind of all-in fight here. A lot of those Mounted Yeomen just doing any kind of damage that they can. Really, they have nothing but hard targets at this point, so they can't do a ton of big damage, but they can still kind of continuously whittle away at things. Fey Enchantress is in great health. Azag still pretty much at 95% health. Doing great. He's doing a really good job of charging Azag in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Getting that charge bonus. He's got, I think, an 85 charge bonus? Yeah, 80 charge bonus. Boom. Pouncing right on those Mounted Yeomen here. Trying to pop the Grail Relic. The Grail Relic is in a good position here, because we can only see Azag's leadership aura, but it's about in line with the Grail Relic, and it's giving him some good leadership across to the Mounted Yeomen, to this whole pocket here. So you can see that Tlaxtlan Soothsayer was initially focused on that. Royal Hippogriff Knights are starting to really kind of dwindle off the battlefield here. Oh, a nice big charge in from those Questing Knights. The AP value from those Questing Knights are really going to be great against those Black Orcs. Got another charge in. Oh, Royal Hippogriff Knight just gets nailed by a Doomdiver Catapult. The Doomdiver Catapult has been firing pretty much all game. Look at this thing. Only has, oops, that's Ozog. Only has 25 kills here, but still, it's just been doing a little bit of damage here and there, knocking out singular units of those big Royal Hippogriff Knights. Is it? Is it coming out? Yeah, there it is. Fey Enchantress's Chalice dropping another bomb here. And it looks like Tlaxtlan Soothsayer can't get out of the way of this one, and it takes a good chunk of health out of those Black Orcs. Ragnarok Spider is free from that little pocket, though, as well as Azog is, or Azag, and we're getting to really take a look at this army. We're going into another Wa, our second Wa, to try and take out these Knights of the Realm. Trying to push things over in this little area. Now we're losing one unit of Black Orcs and now a second unit of Black Orcs. So you can see that the majority of the line of the Greenskins is in pretty big turmoil. We've got 2 unit of Black Orcs down. I think our third one is around here somewhere. Oh, there's another one right there. So all 3 are now fleeing or in ragtag shape. But for the most part, the balance of power is slightly in the favor of Tlaxtlan Soothsayer right now. Gobbo King has done a really good job of mitigating a lot of the big damage that can come his way to his men-at-arms from those Black Orcs. He's done a great job of using his cavalry to focus down the Black Orcs, using Royal Hippogriff Knights to charge in repeatedly. He's used these Questing Knights to kind of help pop them. So he's done a really great job of keeping the core of his army, his foot soldiers, in good health so that he can use it to kind of help drive this fight home for him. Fey Enchantress getting in, again with those Doomdiver catapults, Azag coming in as well, supported by the men-at-arms coming to support the Fey Enchantress, I'm sorry, and Azag being supported by the Arachnarok Spider as well. Another all-in fight here. Fey Enchantress took 2-3 big hits, dropping to about 65% health there. Woo! Again, look how Azag's health has been really strong the entire time. I believe he's got regeneration? No, he does not have regeneration, so he is doing what he can and still staying in great health, no healing, to supplement him. He's kind of really just been going into these balls-out charges repeatedly throughout the entire fight. It's been a really impressive Azag play. Usually, again, we see Azag in much more of a support and defensive role and less of an outright aggression role like Tlaxtlan Soothsayer has been playing in this. Man at Yeoman here, still just getting some good shots in here, starting to lose some ammo on these two guys. We're down to the Arachnarok Queen, using those little spiderlings to kind of help alleviate any wrap-ups, help destroy some of those units here. But what's left of the Goblin Wolf Chariots pushing in. I wasn't able to really focus on it, but we did get a nice rear charge of the Goblin Wolf Riders earlier. It didn't amount to a whole ton, but they did kind of help alleviate one of the tense moments in the game that I unfortunately didn't quite catch. The Enchantress then getting more Earthbloods off, getting some more heals into this big pocket here. You can see that Grail Relic is really maintaining the leadership of this line. You've got two terror-causing units with both the Arachnarok Spider and Azag here, and really, the leadership has been really great. Gobbo King's been doing a good job of keeping that leadership overlapping between the Fey Enchantress and the Grail Relic to keep his units in good morale. That's one of the biggest weaknesses of any Bretonnian army is that morale, and Gobbo King knows that. Gobbo King's really great at knowing those kind of small nuances and keeping a really good finger on the pulse on those things. He's done a great job of just kind of keeping his whole entire pocket from fleeing. He hasn't had to play the Bretonnian game of constantly bringing units back from the fore. It's been a really great fight in that regard. Oh, look at those men-at-arms getting punted. And some Black Orcs getting freed up here, trying to move into this pocket here. We're getting a nice charge in from those Man-at Yeomen. And there's so many Man-at Yeomen, though, at this point that I think they're going to be able to completely knock out these Orcs. They are supported by a small little contingent of Knights of the Realm, only 5 of them as well. It's really coming down to this big center portion. The balance power is shifting even more slightly in Tlaxtlan Soothsayer's favor. It's at probably about 70-30, 65-40, or 65-35 at this point. But really you can see that the majority of the army is right here, followed by these Mounted Yeomen as well on the far end, and the Fey Enchantress. The Fey Enchantress has been doing a really good job of charging in and out of combat, stacking, or not trying to stack, but really using her Mists of the Fey to get that reduction to melee attack. You can see that coming up here pretty soon. We'll get a little charge in from her. And as I get in, tried to get a little surround on by those Knights of the Realm, but does knock out one unit of Mounted Yeomen and finishing off this unit of the Realm as well. See if we can see it on here. Yeah, there it is. Oh, and there it went. Oh, there it is again. There it goes. See, Miss Lady going in and out of combat here, trying to get some cycle charging in, trying to lower the leadership of the Ragnarok Queen while also lowering the overall melee attack. That is an ability that does require you to be in melee combat, so that's why the repeated charging in and out has been happening. But boom, a third wall going off here to try and seal the deal for Tlaxtlan Soothsayer. His back is against the wall here, really. He's got Azag left and he's got the Ragnarok Queen, but he's in a really good position. The only real big threats to Ragnarok Queen are the men-at-arms with polearms at this point. As long as he can just knock those things out, I think he's out of charges of his spider hatchlings, he's going to be in a lot better shape. Looks like we're getting a nice all-in here on those men-at-arms with polearms, trying to get them out of the fight as fast as possible. Getting some Mounted Yeomen charging in and out of combat, cycle charging them as best as possible. Again, trying to take advantage of the leadership of the Ragnarok Queen being low. You can see that the leadership is starting to tank quickly. It was at full leadership just a second ago. And right now, we're down to 26. Let's take a look at how that kind of stacks up here. Oh, there we go. You can see that constant damage sustained, the flanks are exposed. When you get attacked on the rear or the flank, that will also add to it. Any kind of fear or terror, but of course things that are fear or terror causing are immune to those effects, so you don't need to worry about that as much even when you have a low leadership thing like the Ragnarok Queen. But you can see how this kind of bounces around from 41, drops down to 26 immediately. So just kind of a constant tug of war with that leadership. But really popping this Grail Relic is going to be a huge advantage for Tlaxtlan Soothsayer here. He's really up against the wall. Just these two big two big creatures left, trying to square off against this larger Bretonnian horde. But we have popped, or they have popped, those halberd infantry. They're running off here. We still have some questing knights charging in and out, but for the most part here, we're starting to really get that balance of power shifting heavily in favor of Tlaxtlan Soothsayer. The balance of power does shift as things lower in health. They don't need to be killed outright for that balance of power bar to shift outright. And there we go. I think we're getting army losses kicking in across the Bretonnia front line, and Tlaxtlan Soothsayer wins against Gobbo King. And it was a great match. Both opponents brought very, very diverse and different builds. And this is very characteristic of Gobbo King, right? We've always seen him bring these really out of left field builds that really just pose a whole different set of issues. And Tlaxtlan Soothsayer chose a very, very narrow build, which I would not really consider against a Bretonnian army. More often than not, you would see stuff like big guns, savage orcs, stuff like that that really eats up both big cavalry units, like with the big guns, and savage orcs that just tear apart men-at-arms. So really great play here on Tlaxtlan Soothsayer's part by going so narrow and being able to stay focused, right? He did a really good job of not drawing the combat out and following Gobbo King. Gobbo King knows the Greenskins like the back of his hand, so he tried to like just kind of bait out those things, get those good surrounds on those isolated units, and Tlaxtlan did a good job of keeping things tight. I think this was a very, very close match, right? I think had a couple more engagements gone right or gone better for Gobbo King, he would have outright crushed Tlaxtlan Soothsayer. He had a larger numerical force, he had a better wraparound capability than Tlaxtlan. I think Tlaxtlan just played it a lot better as far as keeping it closer to his chest. But overall, great game here. We'll have more of these mastercasts as the week progresses. But thanks so much for watching here today, guys. Have a good one and take care.